Hockey Canada is doing the same thing right now out in Calgary, and there was a long list of guys invited. I think there was 44 men's players that were invited. Before we get to what people like to call the snubs, was there any names that you saw on there that either jumped out at you as far as guys who were invited that you thought, like, that's a really great idea, or I can't believe they bothered to invite that guy, or, just any names on the roster that you saw there that you kind of caught your attention for one reason or another?
Yeah, I'm happy they invited Connor Bedard because I really think that, look, everybody talked about this guy. Obviously, he had a down year with Chicago last year, but this guy is still a superstar. I'm not writing him off at all. And look, Chicago's been terrible. So I like him being involved and around these kinds of players and Olympic players. I really hope he makes the team, whether it's an extra or he earns a spot. I really hope he's around the Olympic team because I feel like he is a future Canadian Olympic star. The experience he's going to get from watching these guys and all of the best hockey players in the world, all of the best Canadian players, he needs to be there just to be able to see some of this.
Just to be there.
Yeah, to be there. So I was really happy to see the latest couple
very
editions.
Similar, right? Like, I don't know whether either of these guys, like Celebrini had a better year last year, frankly, than Bedard did, but I don't know whether either one has a shot to make the team or not, but you get to be around all these Sidney Crosbys and Connor McDavids and make some connections and get comfortable being in the room with some of these people. That was one of the things that Dean Brown and I talked about with USA Hockey's orientation camp. Like, they invited some young guys. Luke Hughes is there. Lane Hutson, not one of them. And I don't think I would have had Lane Hutson on my roster for USA Hockey at the Olympics. I would have wanted him to come to camp and meet some of these people, right, and have that experience and be around it, and they chose not to do that. I was glad to see that Hockey Canada did bring in some of these young guys, whether they're a long shot to make the team or not. These are clearly guys that come 2030, 2034 are going to be key pieces. Let them be around some of your key guys and get to know what it feels like.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really happy that Connor Bedard got that because it's just something that I feel like would be perfect. And, the Four Nations happened. And look, I know, like I said, Connor Bedard didn't have the greatest year last year, but unless he's absolutely stinking it up and he's he's injured, I don't understand how he's not here. When it comes to snubs and people who should be there, look, this is like you said, how many skaters are here? There's so many forwards, 40 something plus. I'm not going to be super worried about guys that didn't get invited because I know a lot of these guys aren't even going to make the team anyways, but seeing guys like Tom Wilson getting the invite, to try and earn that spot, right? Everybody talked Four Nations. Why isn't he on this roster?
Yeah.
Why isn't he on this roster? So I'm happy to see him here.
Well, let's stay on him for a second. Sure. I know you got other names there, but I felt like that was the moment for him. Now, he had a tough season injury-wise, leading up to it and to stay on their radar. But that was an NHL tournament with NHL refs on NHL rinks in an NHL setting, essentially. And I thought if Tom Wilson was going to get the opportunity to do something, that would have been it. We are now going to an Olympics with a lot of IIHF referees, and Tom Wilson would scare me, right? Similar to what we talk about, or used to talk about anyway, with the World Juniors. If the hit along the boards is too loud, those refs will call it, right? It doesn't have to be dirty. It just has to make a lot of noise and be whoo. And, the Swiss ref is going to call you on a penalty. I wonder if a guy like Tom Wilson, and look, anybody's going to get it, and whether they were invited to this camp or not, that doesn't rule you out. If you weren't at this camp, you could still make the Olympic team. Whoever has the best start come, I think, late December, they're going to name these teams, will be there. I think Tom Wilson was more likely to make the Four Nations team than an Olympic team, just based on who's hosting it and who's going to officiate it. But I'm happy to see him at least at the camp. Do you think, what does the start of the season have to look like for him to be seriously on Canada's radar to go and play at an Olympics with a lot of IIHF officiating?
I think he just has to do what he normally does, and the biggest thing is discipline. Like you bring up the biggest point of these refs and what we're used to seeing and what they call. You're right. Like the one problem Tom Wilson always has is himself. He puts himself into bad penalties and stupid penalties, or he'll take something a bit too far to try and set the tone, whatever. And look, I'm happy he got the invite because it's just something where if he earns his way onto it,
sure.
Look, this guy shows he's a big body. Look, the one thing too, you look at the forwards, there's not a lot of guys that are very big on this roster. Quentin Byfield got the invite. I'm not sure if he's going to make the Olympic team, but he's 6'5". Tom Wilson's also in that area of 6'4". Mm-hmm. After that, it's for Hagee at 6'2", Shifley, and Stone at 6'3". Like this isn't a very big roster.
No, you end up using guys like Travis Konechny, who's very physical, but he's not that big. And by late in the tournament, they didn't trust him a whole lot, even at the Four Nations, right? Like it's.
So we get into these spots where, like, look, I'm okay with Tom Wilson going. I'm happy he's there.
Yeah.
Like you said, like you don't just because you're not. That's why I don't care about the snubs thing, because just because you're not there doesn't mean you won't have a chance to make the Olympic roster. We've seen it in the past. We know it's possible. So I'm just happy Olympic hockey is back. It's so friggin' awesome, man. Like I'm so happy and ready for this 1-on-1. And Four Nations was such a perfect setup. But yeah, like look, for Tom Wilson, he just needs to play his game, score goals, do what he can do, but he just needs to show that he can be disciplined. Like whether I understand the odd fight here and there, but
sure,
it's taking those stupid penalties where it's either a dirty, cheap shot, or if it's just bad penalties, taking too many unnecessary penalties. If he's a guy that can just play the way he normally does, I don't see how he's not a discussion to be a guy that could be an extra forward on a fourth line and a guy you could throw out there for an extra shift just to make defense on the other side, just feel his presence, like to finish his check. Like you said, you don't want to have it too crazy hits and whatnot in this, but physicality is absolutely a huge part of that game too. And I think
his age is a thing. Like we'll see. Like if we get to the point at the end of December where they're naming the team and he has, I don't know, 11, 12 goals. Let's talk, right? Like let's see what he looks.
Yeah.
If he's got 3 goals and he kind of looks washed a little bit, then we're probably not even having the conversation, right? But he deserves to be at the camp. One of the things, like if we can make it local for a minute, we talked about the reaction that Montreal has had to Lane Hutson not being invited. And again, I don't want to paint Habs fans in the wrong. Well, actually, I'd love to paint them poorly here if I could. But to be fair, most of them have been fairly reasonable in saying, I don't think Lane Hutson deserves to make the Olympic team in his second year ahead of a Werenski, ahead of a Hughes, ahead of people who are going to be the guys who run that USA power play. And that's the job you would need Lane Hutson to do if you were bringing him. He's not a shutdown third pair defenseman. But why wouldn't you bring him to camp? And I thought that was a reasonable enough question from Habs fans. When we look here in Ottawa, I haven't seen much outrage at all over the idea that Thomas Chabot was not invited to camp. And yet there have been some pieces written in a few different publications about why maybe he should have got, again, not necessarily a spot on the team, but at least an invite to camp. When you look at Thomas Chabot, do you feel like it was unjustified that he wasn't at least given that invite? Or it kind of, do you feel like it sort of feels like they've got a pretty good handle on what their D is going to look like and he's not going to be a part of it?
Yeah, I think so in that sense. I think it's what you just said. Like whether he was invited or not, again, you could have invited him, you could have not. I look at the roster of defense and, the other player I wanted to bring up when he brought up names is local guy, Mackenzie Weegar getting the invite. I'm really happy he got the invite. Barhaven kind of guy, really good dude. I really like the way he plays.
He was really emotional when they interviewed him before the camp, like and what it meant to him just to get the invite to camp, just to be around these people, right? Like he was emotional about that. It was good to see for that guy.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I'm happy he did. And when I look at the decor, though, like when you see the names, like I just, I look at Chabot, and I'd rather just about every defense that's on this roster pretty much right now over him. Mm-hmm. So it's it is what it is, and like you said, there hasn't been too much outrage. I think if Thomas Chabot starts the season again on a hot streak and he gets invited, then by all means, like I'm okay with him making the team.
This is it.
If he's not here
being
right
on
now,
it, like not being at camp doesn't mean you can't go. If he gets off to a killer start, he'll be in the picture when it comes selection time.
Yeah, and like I said, I like the decor already. Like there's so many guys here that it's going to be a really really hardcore to pick, especially when you have guys like Drew Doughty, where you know what, maybe he hasn't been himself the last few years, but does he make the roster just because he's a veteran guy that's
Right.
won a gold before and he has that experience and he's a good guy to have around? So will he steal a spot from someone just based off of his resume versus his play?
Hockey
Who knows?
Canada loves that guy, right? We think back to the Four Nations and the space they made for him. Like, if you're healthy, if you're back, if you can play a game or two, the spot will be there for you. And it was. It turned out he played, and they love him. The thing that stands out to me, and I don't want to rant and rave about it because I've done it before on this show. I don't like the term snub. Sometimes certain guys are just better than other guys, and that doesn't mean those guys were snubbed. It just means you weren't as good. I was surprised you were only bringing 3 goalies to camp, and they were the 3 goalies you took to the tournament last year: Sam Montembeault, Aiden Hill, and Jordan Binnington. And look, Binnington, Canada's goaltending was under a serious microscope going into the tournament, and I thought that was fair. Like, we'll see what's going to happen here. And Binnington, I don't think you looked at the tournament as a whole and said, pillar to post, best goalie of the tournament. But in those moments in overtime, and what he made big saves that you needed him to make, Aiden Hill has sort of struggled a little lately. Sam Montembeault, as much as it pains me to say, is probably a little underappreciated. But at a camp like this, I was surprised you only bothered to bring the same 3 goalies. Like, you can't find room in somebody's hotel for Logan Thompson to come out, and after the year he had in Washington, there are other Canadian goaltenders that I still feel like goaltending is a bit of a weak spot for Canada against some of the teams they're going to play at the Olympics. But I didn't see any real reason to limit the invite list to just the 3 that you had at the Four Nations. Let Logan Thompson come and let some of these guys come and have that experience at camp to get to know some people in case, I don't even know, like whoever gets out to the hottest start, that's the guy you want. Like, that's in the situation that Canada's in right now, is whoever's hot right now, I want that guy on my Olympic team, because we don't have a clear-cut Swayman or, Ottinger or Hellebuck, whatever you think of that right now. I just thought it was odd that it was only 3 goalies that were invited.
Yeah, for me, it's true. I just think that when you look across the league, the best Canadian goalies are the 3 that are right there right now. I would say, like, the goalies they invited, the same ones that have been there are there. I wouldn't be against Logan Thompson getting an invite as well, like, just to be there too. But the fact that he's not, like, I think they're just trying to say, like, was last year just luck where, like, he came out of nowhere? Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know if there's a reason. Are you
sure Aiden Hill's way better than Logan Thompson? Like, to me, these are all.
I would just say he's a little bit more of a veteran guy, and that's where we always see these Olympic rosters. Like I said, we kind of always see them favor those guys that have been there and done things before. And I think Aiden Hill has been around the league. He's won a cup for Vegas, and like you said, I've never. I think you were actually pretty modest about it by saying it's a bit of a worry for the. I think the goaltending, like you said, Binnington showed up in the moments that mattered, which is the biggest factor. But Jordan Binnington being, like, you calling him the number 1 goaltender in Canada is kind of like,
that's uncomfortable. But he's a guy going into World Championships, right? Going into World Championships, everyone was like, I'd totally get it if Jordan Binnington just sat it out. I'm the guy. I went to Worlds last year for Canada, earned my spot, showed them I cared, got the number 1 job, and won you a Four Nations. And then he goes to the World Championships this year, and I'm not blaming him, but they lose a quarterfinal to Denmark. You're like, that's fucking gross, man. And he's in net for it. Is he singularly to blame? Of course not. Canada needs to score like 8, 10, 12 goals anytime they play Denmark. That has to happen, and they didn't. So it's not entirely on him, but he would have been better off to stay home and put his feet up on the couch and say, you already know I'm your guy, instead of being a part of that debacle in Copenhagen, man. I think I would have found room, if I'm bringing 44 people to camp anyway, to bring 1 or 2 more goalies in just to get to know people. That's all. I don't know that any one guy was snubbed. I just don't know why you needed to limit it.
Is there anybody other than maybe Logan Thompson that you would really consider too, though? Like, I'm just looking at, like, you know, Canadian goaltenders around the league, and it's like I said, those 3 there, I think are the best 3 in Canada, and I think Logan Thompson is a guy that could probably push for the 3rd spot, but I maybe want to see a bit more too. But again, if he was invited, I'd be okay with it, and I think he should be there too. Right. I agree with you on that aspect of it, but when you're looking around the league, like, I'm not looking at any other goaltenders.
Let's look at the dynamite stick, Stuart Skinner.
Sure.
He's been a guy who has taken his team, at least, you know, with a little help sometimes, to the Stanley Cup final twice in a row. That's a guy. Oh, okay, you're not feeling that. You're not feeling it at all. Not interested.
If anything, he's shown like that. He's the guy. He's maybe the reason they have not come away with a cup.
What about Darcy Kemper? Had a pretty good bounce back year last year in LA.
Yeah,
he's won a cup,
and he's a big guy.
You can't bring him to camp. Like, we're not deciding who's making the team right now, but just who's on our radar for the tournament. I don't know, man. I thought Darcy
Kemper's
Kemper.
a guy too. I like that idea. Like, again, like, I think him and Logan Thompson, are the guys that you would like. Skinner, not a chance. Okay. But yeah, the other 2 I could see, and I'd be okay
Pickard
with.
Canadian? Because if we're bringing Skinner, we got to bring Pickard.
I was going to say they're coming
run
together.
A tandem.
Yeah, McDavid's on the saying, no, I don't think so. Please not. But yeah, no, I think that the guys that are there are fine. If anybody else makes the team, that'd be very cool, and I think that's the door's still open for someone. Sure. But
yes.
I'm okay with this. But yeah, like, and Kemper, like you said, like, he hasn't had the last, best last couple years, but still had a better year this year, and you know, he's a big goaltender too. So I wouldn't have hated him being there. So again, like, I look at this as it is what it is, and I'm just happy that some of the young guys are there, some of the veterans are there. It's a big roster.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's Byfield, it's Celebrini, and it's Bedard, and look. I'm not certain that any of those 3 will be on the team, but I'm glad they're there now, getting to spend time with Nathan McKinnon, right? And spend time with Connor McDavid and this group, and just be around it. And they're not scheduled to be on ice. We'll see. That's happened before, where everyone just happened to throw their skates in their bag before they headed out there. We'll see. But it's meant to be an off. Remember, I think we saw the Mike Babcock ball hockey. This is what our power play might look like. This is going into 2010.